Welcome back. For our feature debate, I'm joined by McElroy and Jerome Sweeney. With the NBA playoffs in full swing, the two LA teams, the Lakers and the Clippers, have emerged as favorites in the West. The top-seeded Lakers are tied 1-1 in a series with the Houston Rockets following a 117-109 win on Sunday. The number 2-seeded LA Clippers have won back-to-back games to take a 2-1 series lead over the Denver Nuggets. Max, I know you've been high on the Clippers for a while. What's your take?
Well, I think Clippers are still, the clear favorite to win the finals out of the teams in LA, and I think that's really interesting because I think LA is overall just the Lakers team. They've had such great history there. Going from Kobe and then 2 years later getting LeBron is, it's crazy. So and LA always loves the big stars, and LeBron's arguably one of the best of all time, or the best of all time. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see how the fans will react to a Clippers team being actually really great and potentially winning the finals. But I think just solely off of the consistency of Kawhi Leonard and their bench, I think they're going to be favorites in the NBA.
I think it's very, very interesting that after 9 years of Los Angeles basketball being just subpar, we now have arguably the number 1 and number 2 team in the NBA in the same city. It's the battle of LA. It's been the main headline of the NBA season of all season long. Anthony Davis and LeBron versus Paul George and Kawhi, and I think it's going to be a really cool series if it happens, because we have two new Kawhi and Paul George. That duo is in their first year together. Anthony Davis and LeBron James in their first year together. Kawhi Leonard has a lot of playoff experience. LeBron James has a lot of playoff experience. Anthony Davis doesn't. Paul George hasn't had much in the last few years for playoff experience. It's going to be a genuine 7-game series if that happens, and it's going to be super fun basketball to watch.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. Do you think they're even going to meet, or do you think that another team's going to be able to take them down? Or
So the Houston Rockets, I think, are the weirdest team of all time in the NBA right now, with no true big man, and somehow their box-out method is just working incredibly well against these really good teams, like the Lakers in Game 1. The Lakers had 5 days off, the Rockets had 1 day off, and they came out and just put on a show against them. But LeBron James is LeBron James. He's clutch. He's a lockdown defender, and he hits big shots when he needs to hit them. Anthony Davis has just been playing out of his mind for having only 2 playoff series in his whole entire career, which the Pelicans lost both times. But the thing for Anthony Davis is he can play the first 43 minutes of the game incredibly. He's got to write his own story for the last 5 minutes, because that's where he needs to make his name for himself as the clutch big man that wins the series. He needs to take that step, the elevation up to the next level.
Yeah, and I don't really know if he'll be able to do that. I think
Genuinely.
He's been playing a lot better than LeBron in the past few weeks, really. And I don't know if he'll be able to, when the pressure's on him, I don't know if he's going to be that guy. And I think Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, Finals MVP, 2 different teams. I think he's just that proven guy. Paul George is now playing a little bit better. And I just think the Clippers just, like I said earlier, they just have an insane amount of depth, where I think the Lakers really lack. The Lakers need those 2 stars to be playing great, where the Clippers could just have one and I think still win. But this whole NBA season has been really weird, because I don't think, at least in the bubble, there has been a great team that's still in the playoffs.
The whole NBA, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the bubble. It's just like the Suns were clearly the best team at the start of the bubble, and then they didn't make the playoffs, but credit to the NBA, because they handled the pandemic arguably the best of any league, and they've had no positive cases, and here we are weeks away from the season being over with a champion crowned and it working out with no flaws. So credit to Adam Silver for creating that bubble. Absolutely. For that. But also, going back to the Los Angeles, both LA teams actually have a surprisingly good amount of veterans on the team. Lou Williams, J.R. Smith, JaVale McGee, Joakim Noah, which a lot of teams lack that veteran experience going into the playoffs. So I think both of them, with the veteran experience and the promising young players that they have, and Lakers Caruso, Montrezl Harrell on the Clippers, obviously, I think it's genuinely is going to be a 7-game series, and it's going to be one of the greatest series of all NBA history if they can overcome the Rockets and the Nuggets to get to that Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, it'll be great. I'm excited to see it. I think it'll be really interesting if the Clippers would lose that game to LA, or the Lakers are still better. Would the Clippers fans just forever would they just forever be mad at their team?
I think that is also the key thing right now. Is there is so many fans in LA that are prepared to make the jump to the Clippers or go back to the LA, and that could decide LA's team for the future. This one series,
yeah, absolutely.
The Clippers have been not below average for the last 20 plus years.
Yep.
It's been a while.
My whole lifetime.
Yeah, literally. And then the Lakers have been subpar for the last decade or so, since 2011. So I think this is the true test to see who gets the fans in LA and who becomes LA's team for the next decade.
Yeah, and that's a super important battle. I mean, the
biggest market in the NBA.
Exactly.
You are fighting for, and it is going to be a good series. Let's hope it gets there.
It'll be a lot of fun. Well, we are going to throw it over to Jacob. Thanks for joining us.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us. Remember to get unsided and start climbing up that leaderboard. For all of us here at Take a Side, I'm Jacob Polacheck, and we'll see you next week.